From the outside, my life seemed perfect. A successful career, a beautiful home, and a wife who, by all appearances, adored me. Sophia and I had been married for 8 years, and while things weren't as passionate as they once were, I still believed we had something solid. We had built a life together, a partnership, or so I thought. Sophia had always been the social one, the life of every party, effortlessly charming and always surrounded by friends. I admire that about her, even if it meant she was often preoccupied with social events, brunches, and weekend getaways that didn't always include me. She loved luxury, and I worked hard to provide it for her. I never questioned how we spent money. I believed a happy wife meant a happy marriage. So when she suggested a vacation, I didn't hesitate. "You need a break," she had said one evening, curling up beside me on the couch. "You work too much, David. Let me plan something special for us." I smiled at her. "That sounds great, babe. Where are we thinking?" "Just leave it to me," she said with a wink. "I know exactly what we need." Sophia loved planning things. Or rather, she loved controlling things. But I didn't mind. I trusted her. She had always handled our trips before, and they were usually spectacular. Over the next few weeks, she was completely immersed in the planning. I'd come home to see her on the phone, excitedly talking about resorts and activities. She would glance at me and smile. "It's going to be amazing," she assured me. I noticed she was spending more time texting, her phone practically glued to her hand. When I asked about it, she brushed it off. "Just finalizing details," she said. "You don't have to worry about anything." I didn't press her. Work had been overwhelming, and I was relieved that all I had to do was pack a bag and show up at the airport. As the departure date approached, I sensed a shift in her energy. She was more excited than usual, almost giddy. "This trip is going to be unforgettable," she said. Looking back, I should have picked up on the warning signs. The way she avoided specifics when I asked about the itinerary. How she never mentioned which hotel we were staying at. How she made sure to handle all the bookings herself. But I trusted her. The morning of our flight, she was up early, packing her suitcase with an enthusiasm I hadn't seen in a long time. "You packed enough for a month," I teased. "You know me," she said, laughing. "Always prepared." I kissed her on the forehead. "I can't wait. Just you and me. We need this." For a brief moment, something flickered in her eyes, a hesitation. Then she smiled. "Yeah," she said. "Just us." At the airport, everything seemed normal. She was in high spirits, chatting away while scrolling through her phone. I noticed a flurry of messages coming in, but I didn't think much of it. We boarded the plane, and as we settled into our seats, she turned to me with a bright smile. "This is going to be the best trip ever," she said. I smiled back, squeezing her hand. I had no idea how wrong I was. The flight was smooth, and Sophia spent most of it on her phone, scrolling and typing furiously. Now and then, she would glance at me, give me a quick smile, and then return to whatever conversation she was having. I figured she was just excited about the trip. When we landed, the warm tropical air greeted us as we stepped off the plane. Sophia stretched her arms and inhaled deeply. "Smell that, David? That's the scent of pure relaxation." I smiled. It does feel good to finally take a break. We grabbed our luggage and made our way to the resort. As soon as we pulled up to the entrance, I was impressed. The place was stunning, towering palm trees, crystal clear pools, and a grand entrance that screamed luxury. Sophia turned to me, eyes gleaming. "Isn't this amazing?" "It looks incredible," I said. "You went all out." She laughed. "Only the best." As we stepped inside, I took a moment to admire the massive lobby, with its marble floors and glass walls overlooking the ocean. The place was high-end, far beyond what I would have picked for myself, but I didn't mind splurging if it made Sophia happy. A voice suddenly called out from across the lobby. "Sophia, over here." I turned my head, confused, as 3 women strutted toward us. Dressed in designer outfits, sunglasses perched atop their heads, they walked with the confidence of people who were exactly where they belonged. Sophia beamed, waving them over. "Oh my God, you made it!" I blinked, trying to process what was happening. The first woman reached us and pulled Sophia into a tight hug. "This place is to die for. You know how to pick 'em, babe." The second woman, tossing her long, manicured fingers through her hair, glanced at me with a smirk. "And you must be David." "Wow, Sophia didn't tell us how handsome you were." Sophia turned to me, grinning. "David, you remember Clara, Fiona, and Melissa, don't you?" I nodded stiffly. I had met them before briefly. At social events Sophia had dragged me to, but I had no idea they were coming on this trip. Before I could say anything, Clara looped her arm through Sophia's. We have so much catching up to do. This week is going to be insane. Fiona laughed. It's like a dream come true. Luxury, beaches, and nonstop fun. I can't believe we finally pulled this off. My stomach dropped. We? I turned to Sophia. Wait, what's going on? She gave me an innocent smile. Oh, didn't I mention? The girls are staying at the resort too. I frowned. No, you didn't. Claire let out a dramatic gasp. Oops, surprise. The women giggled, clearly enjoying my confusion. I tried to stay calm. I thought this was a couple's trip. Sophia waved a hand dismissively. David, don't be so rigid. The girls and I haven't had a trip together in years. I figured we could all relax together. It'll be fun. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't what I signed up for. Melissa patted my arm. Relax, David. Just go with the flow. You're lucky Sophia is so generous letting you tag along. Tag along? I looked at Sophia, expecting her to correct them, but she just laughed. I swallowed my irritation. Where are we staying? Sophia pulled a key card from her purse and handed it to me. Here you go. I booked you a nice room. I took the key, glancing at it. Wait, just one? I thought we'd be staying together. She gave me a sweet, condescending smile. Oh, babe, the girls and I are sharing a suite. We have so much to catch up on. You understand, right? I felt my hands tighten around the key card. Fiona smirked. She needs her space, David. Don't take it personally. The others laughed. I forced a smile. Right, of course. Inside, my mind was racing. I had been playing. This wasn't a romantic getaway. This was a girl's trip, and I was nothing more than a glorified wallet. And from the way they were looking at me, they knew it too. Dinner that night was at one of the resort's high-end restaurants, the kind where the plates were small, but the bill was massive. Sophia and her friends were already seated at a private table when I arrived, chatting and laughing like they had been there for hours. As I pulled out a chair, Clara smirked. Look who finally decided to join us. Sophia barely looked up from her drink. David, you're late. I wasn't aware we had a set time, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Fiona giggled. Oh, don't be so serious. We're just having fun. I sat down, trying to push away the growing frustration in my chest. The waiter arrived, pouring more wine into their already half-full glasses. The conversation picked up again trips to Europe, designer handbags, extravagant spa days, things I had no interest in. At one point, Fiona leaned in, her voice dripping with amusement. David, you're so lucky Sophia handles everything for you. I don't know how men survive without women like us. Melissa snickered. Seriously, can you even book a flight on your own? The table erupted in laughter. I forced a small smile. Believe it or not, I managed just fine before Sophia. Clara raised an eyebrow. Oh, I'm sure you did, but let's be honest. Sophia is the real powerhouse, isn't she? Running the house, keeping up with us, and still finding time for you? Sophia took a slow sip of her wine, watching me over the rim of her glass. Well, someone has to keep things running. She said it so casually, like I was some helpless fool who needed her guidance. The others raised their glasses in mock celebration. To Sophia, the real MVP. I gritted my teeth and lifted my glass just enough to avoid making a scene. The conversation continued, each comment more demeaning than the last. Sophia talked about the vacation as if it were her achievement, as if I hadn't paid for every part of it. David knows the importance of treating me right, she said, her tone light but pointed. A woman deserves to be spoiled. Melissa grinned. And you deserve it all, babe. Most guys wouldn't fund a trip like this. Fund? My grip tightened on my fork. I had agreed to pay for the trip, sure. But hearing it framed like that, hearing them speak like I was nothing more than Sophia's ATM, that was different. I looked at Sophia, waiting for her to correct them, to at least acknowledge me as something more than just a wallet. But she didn't. She smiled, took another sip of her wine, and let the conversation continue. By the time dinner was over, my patience was wearing thin. The bill arrived, and as expected, it was pushed toward me without a second thought. Sophia placed a hand on my arm. Babe, you've got this, right? Her tone was so sweet, so effortless, as if there was no world in which I wouldn't pay. I glanced at the bill several $100 for a meal I had barely spoken through. I pulled out my card, silent but seething. The waiter took it without hesitation, and as he walked away, Clara leaned in with a smirk. See, you're such a good husband, David. Taking care of everything like a real man. Fiona laughed. We reserved rooms for the elite, after all. Their voices blended in a haze of mockery and arrogance. And for the first time in my marriage, I looked at Sophia and realized she wasn't on my side. Back in my room, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the key card in my hand. My wife was in a luxury suite with her friends, laughing, drinking, and celebrating while I had been shoved into a basic room like some afterthought. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was deliberate. I replayed the night in my head, the way they spoke to me, the way they laughed at my expense, the way Sophia let it all happen without a second thought. She didn't see me as her partner. She saw me as her provider, her financier, her backup plan. A sick feeling settled in my chest as I remembered what Melissa had said at dinner. Most guys wouldn't fund a trip like this. Fund. I grabbed my phone and opened my banking app, a nagging thought pressing in the back of my mind. I scrolled through the charges. Room reservations, spa bookings, private cabana rentals, all under my name. All on my card. My stomach twisted. I scrolled further, and that's when I saw it. Not only had Sophia booked the entire trip on my dime, but she had also reserved extra rooms for all of them. My jaw clenched. This wasn't just her having fun with friends. This was calculated and planned from the start. And I had let it happen. I took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. Fine, if I was just a bank account to her, then it was time to shut it down. I opened my banking app and started making changes. First, I froze every credit card she had access to. Next, I logged into our joint accounts and transferred my money into a private one. Then, I called the bank. Hi, I need to report a card as lost or stolen. Yes, cancel all linked cards immediately. I wasn't going to let her spend another cent on me. The next step was the hotel. I walked to the front desk, keeping my tone polite but firm. There seems to be an issue with my reservations, I said. Can you confirm which rooms are under my name? The receptionist checked the system and nodded. Yes, sir. We have 4 rooms under your card. I forced a smile. There's a mistake. I only authorized 1. I'd like the others to be canceled immediately. She hesitated. Would you like to inform the guests first? No need, I said. They'll figure it out soon enough. As the receptionist made the changes, I could already imagine the chaos that was about to unfold. The spa appointments? Canceled. The private cabana rental? Gone. The unlimited room service? Not anymore. By the time I returned to my room, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Control. Let's see how Sophia handled being cut off from her golden ticket. The next morning, my phone buzzed repeatedly on the nightstand. I didn't need to check to know who it was. Sophia? I let it ring. Then came another call. And another. I ignored every single one. Moments later, a loud knock banged on my door. David! Sophia's voice was sharp, edged with frustration. Open the door! I took my time, finally pulling it open to see her standing there in a robe, hair slightly disheveled, phone clutched in her hand. Her expression was a mix of confusion and anger. My card just got declined, she snapped. At the spa, in front of everyone. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. That so? She narrowed her eyes. Yes. And when I tried my other card, it declined too. What the hell is going on? I shrugged. That's strange. Maybe you should check with the bank. Her jaw tightened. Don't play games, David. I know you did something. I stayed silent, letting her sit in her panic. Then, as if remembering something, she straightened. Whatever. It's probably just a glitch. I'll use another card. I smiled. Go ahead, try it. She stared at me, then pulled out her phone and tapped her screen. A moment later, her expression shifted from anger to alarm. What? Why are the accounts frozen? I raised an eyebrow. Huh, that's weird. Her voice rose. David, what did you do? I met her gaze, keeping my tone calm. I stopped paying for your vacation. She blinked like she hadn't heard me correctly. What? I canceled the extra rooms, the spa treatments, the private dinners. You know, all the things you and your friends were enjoying in my dime. Sophia's face paled. You can't just do that. I chuckled. I can, and I did. She let out a sharp laugh, shaking her head. Are you serious? David, you're acting ridiculous. You're embarrassing yourself. I tilted my head. Am I? Or are you just embarrassed because your little scheme didn't work out? Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Then, right on cue, Clara and Fiona stormed into the hallway. Sophia, what the hell is going on? Clara snapped. The hotel is saying our rooms have been canceled. Fiona held up her phone. My card was just declined at breakfast. Sophia turned to me, voice dropping to a hiss. Fix this. Now. I gave her a long, hard look. Then I stepped back into my room and shut the door in her face. The shouting continued outside. Clara, I thought you said David would cover everything? Fiona, this is so humiliating. We have no money for the rest of the trip. Sophia, just calm down. I'll figure it out. I sat on the bed, listening to the chaos I had created. After a while, the yelling faded. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A message from the hotel. Dear Mr. Bennett, the guests under your reservation are refusing to settle their charges. How would you like to proceed? I smiled as I typed back. That's their problem now. Do whatever you need to. Sophia had spent this whole trip treating me like an afterthought, a wallet, a joke. Now, she was going to learn what it felt like to be left behind. I checked out of the hotel that afternoon. I didn't say a word to Sophia or her friends. I didn't need to. By now, the reality had sunk in for them. They were stranded in a luxury resort with no way to pay for their rooms, their meals, or the extravagant services they had booked. I could imagine the humiliation on Sophia's face when she realized the staff expected her to cover the cost. I turned off my phone before the flood of desperate calls could come in. I was done. The flight home was peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. When I landed, I drove straight home. The house felt different, lighter, quieter than mine. No fake smiles, no passive-aggressive remarks, no endless spending sprees. Just peace. I walked into my office, sat down, and pulled out my phone. Then, I made the final move. I called my lawyer. Rebecca, it's time. I want to file for divorce. She didn't sound surprised. I'll start drafting the papers. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling, and make sure she doesn't get a cent more than she's entitled to. Understood, she said. I hung up, and just like that, it was over. Sophia had taken me for granted for too long. She had treated me like an ATM, a joke, an afterthought. But now she had nothing. A few days later, she showed up at the house. Her face was pale, and her confidence shattered. David, she started, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. Can we talk? I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. About what? Her lips trembled. About us. About what happened. I let the silence stretch. Then, finally, I spoke. There is no us anymore, Sophia. Tears welled in her eyes. I messed up. Two took you for granted. I didn't think. That's the problem, I said, cutting her off. You never thought about me, not once. Her voice broke. I'm sorry. I studied her for a long moment. Then I nodded. I know. She exhaled in relief, stepping forward like she thought she could fix this. But I didn't move. I accept your apology, I said. But that doesn't change anything. Her face crumbled. David, please. I shook my head. No, Sophia. I deserve better. For the first time in years, I saw realization dawn in her eyes. I wasn't going to be her backup plan. I wasn't going to be her safety net. I wasn't going to be her fool. She looked at me one last time, searching for something second chance, a way back. But there was nothing left. Without another word, she turned and walked away. And when the door closed behind her, I knew I was finally free.